Focus on Headline. Now let's take a look at what major issues are making the headlines today on Focus on Headline. For this, joining us in the studio today, we have our reporters in Yoon and Kim Min-ji. Guys, welcome back.
Good evening.
Good morning.
All of us are extra energetic today, right?
Yes.
None of us are extra energetic today. Is what's going on. We got the Monday blues going on. It's been
Or maybe all of us are on diet.
I had coffee right before I came in.
Worst thing to have, actually. Well, Monday was, nevertheless, a very busy day in news, and we're going to start things off in some diplomacy. Today marking a very important step in relationship between South Korea and Slovakia, as President Yoon Suk-yeol met with Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico. This at the presidential office over in Yongsan, Seoul. Summit particularly significant, and that it's Prime Minister Fico's first visit to South Korea in 17 years. The two nations are celebrating 3 decades of diplomatic relations, and the talks between the two leaders focused on strengthening economic ties as well as cooperation in key areas such as energy and trade. Nevertheless, Min-ji, you're going to start us off with the meeting between the two leaders here. What do you have for us?
Well, during the summit held on the 30th, that is today, President Yoon and Prime Minister Fico discussed expanding cooperation in various sectors like trade, investment, energy, and supply chains. The meeting marked a significant moment in the 30-year diplomatic relationship between South Korea and Slovakia. So President Yoon emphasized South Korea's readiness to deepen cooperation with Slovakia, and he described the partnership as a strategic move to address global challenges. Both leaders highlighted the importance of this summit, which they believe sets a new milestone in their cooperation and also creates a foundation for future growth in their bilateral relations. Now, one of the key points of the discussions was cooperation in the nuclear energy sector. Prime Minister Fico described his desire to further explore partnerships in this area, along with economic investments and trade. Now, Fico noted that many Korean companies are interested in increasing their investments in Slovakia, and his government is committed to providing favorable conditions for such economic activities. Additionally, the Prime Minister was accompanied by his Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy, and this signaled Slovakia's intent to strengthen economic ties with South Korea. So this visit is significant as it marks Prime Minister Fico's first trip to Korea in 17 years, having last visited in 2007 during his previous term, and it also marks the first bilateral visit by a Slovak leader since 2018.
Yeah, it's also significant in that if you remember not too long ago, we had President Yoon Suk-yeol visit to the Czech Republic, right, with meeting with his Czech counterpart. And one of the things that the Czech president had said is that if indeed, and come next year, they're finally able to put a pen and paper to that nuclear deal project, it's going to be a first step to a number of other European countries that might sign nuclear power plant deals with South Korea. And one of the countries that was mentioned, I believe, was Slovakia. And so who knows what happens, which is why, not to mention that one of the key discussions was the cooperation in the nuclear energy sector, and we're still keeping a close tab on the situation in Czech Republic, and hopefully that does expand to further bilateral ties in Slovakia as well. Familiar cycle, repeating once again, we mentioned the ongoing rift within the ruling and opposition parties at the National Assembly, with the main opposition Democratic Party holding majority, continuously passing bills unilaterally, and the PPP boycotting them. This, of course, goes to the cabinet, which then Prime Minister Han Duck-soo requests a reconsideration. That happened once again on Monday, with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo holding a cabinet meeting and passing the request for consideration of 3 key bills that are proposed by the main opposition, the opposition parties. These bills include the Special Counsel Probe Bill, targeting First Lady Kim Gun-hee. Sam, you're going to start us off. Let's talk about this again.
Sure. That is about the 3 bills introduced by opposition parties during the cabinet meeting after the Chuseok holiday. And those 3 bills include a special counsel bill calling for an independent probe into allegations surrounding First Lady Kim Gun-hee, special probe bill on Marine Corporal Che's death, and revisions to the issuance of local currency vouchers. If you remember, the processing of these bills was delayed until after Chuseok following a suggestion from National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik. And taking a closer look at each bill, first, the so-called Kim Gon-hee Special Prosecutor Bill focuses on investigating 8 allegations, including claims that the First Lady was involved in the manipulation of Deutsche Motors stock prices. The Special Prosecutor Bill on the young Marine's death aims to uncover the truth behind allegations of external interference in the investigation into the death of Corporal Che, who died last July while searching for a missing person. Lastly, the revised Local Currency Act seeks to change the current financial support for regional vouchers by the government and local governments from discretionary to mandatory. When these bills were first proposed, the ruling party boycotted the meeting entirely. And while they initially considered responding with a filibuster, they seemed to opt for a boycott, likely mindful of public fatigue and discomfort from the frequent use of filibusters.
Yeah, so at least the good news is, despite the fact that the cycle over and over again, right, that we just talked about here with some of these contentious bills, before the continuous cycle led to the delay in some of the key livelihood bills. However, last week during the plenary session, I believe they passed 77 livelihood bills, and so they got that out of the way, and so the public, I guess, relatively happy with the passage of those bills. But these other contentious bills, these are the big ones now, which might not work in the favor of the ruling People Power Party, especially given the fact that there are some serious allegations that are coming out in regards to First Lady Kim Gon-hee, which we're not going to talk about at this time because there's still investigations into this. But when the opposition party took the lead in proposing these bills, it was easy for the public to predict the next steps. But what reasons did Prime Minister Han Duck-soo provide this time in refusing the bills?
Well, on this Monday, Prime Minister Han, regarding the 2 special prosecutor bills related to First Lady Kim Gon-hee and Corporal Che, argued that it had already requested reconsideration on the grounds of violating constitutional principles of separation of powers and concerns over potential human rights violations. As for the Local Currency Act, the government countered that it could undermine the foundations of local government autonomy and infringe upon the government's constitutional authorities to draft the national budget. The presidential office also warned that these bills were unconstitutional and unlawful, with President Yoon expected to exercise his veto power, and President Yoon Suk-yeol has until October 4th, 15 days after the bills were forwarded to him, to veto the legislation. And if he does so, the total number of bills vetoed during his presidency would rise to 24.
There is some investigation again still in regards to other allegations involving the First Lady, prosecutors raiding an ex-lawmaker involved in First Lady's election interference, but this is still developing news right now, which is why I believe, again, we talked about this endless cycle, right? The DP and the opposition parties are going to continue to push for other special probe bills, probably adding this one into a long list of other allegations here. We're going to turn into a significant development, the ongoing trial surrounding the Itaewon crowd crush disaster. Nearly 2 years have passed. October 29th, I believe, is the anniversary of the tragedy. Claimed the lives of 149 people during Halloween festivities in Itaewon, and the disaster sparked widespread outrage over the lack of crowd control and response from the local authorities. Today on this Monday, former Yongsan Police Station Chief Lee Im-jae, Yongsan Ward Office Head Park Hee-young, along with several other officials, face sentencing in court. Now, they're charged with professional negligence, a charge that could result in a substantial prison time if convicted. Minji, you have the details from today's proceedings.
Sure. So as SAJ said, it has been almost 2 years since the Itaewon disaster, and today marked the first trial sentencing hearing for key individuals involved in the response, following a year and 8 months since charges were filed. The Seoul Western District Court held sentencing for 5 Yongsan police officers this afternoon, including former Chief Lee Im-jae, and later the court has been expected to deliver the sentencing for 4 Yongsan ward officials, including its former head Park Hee-young. The central issue before the court was whether these officials will be found guilty of professional negligence resulting in death and injury. And to secure a conviction on these charges, the prosecution must prove that the defendants had a duty of care and failed to take necessary actions to prevent the disaster. The prosecution has maintained that both Lee Im-jae and Park Ki-young had the authority and responsibility to foresee and prevent the accident, which they argue could have been anticipated given the large crowds that gather on the day of the tragedy. They also assert that the responses after the disaster occurred was also inadequate. Prosecutors have called for a 7-year prison sentence for both Yi and Park, along with 3 years for Yongsan District's former Disaster and Safety Department head Choi Won-jun and 5 years for the former Yongsan Police 112 Situation Room Chief Song Byung-ju. And at about 5 p.m. today, the result of the trial came out, and Park Ki-young, chief of Yongsan War Office, was pronounced not guilty. Song Byung-ju, former Yongsan Police 112 Situation Room Chief, to 2 years of imprisonment, and Lee Im-jae, former chief of Yongsan Police Station, to 3 years of imprisonment.
It's interesting results of the court case coming out right now. I think the consensus was that the former Yongsan War chief was going to get the brunt of the sentencing there, given the fact that, again, everyone knew that there was going to be a large crowd. However, I think the argument was that because there was no organizers, it was not her obligation to hold meetings, especially given that there are no organizers. So who are you going to hold a meeting with, right? It is a big thing. Although others can argue that meetings could be held with the fire department and the police chief in trying to, control the crowd here. But that's that. The sentencing has already come out. It seems the prosecution did build a strong case, but how have the defendants responded to these serious allegations?
Well, throughout the trial, both Yi and Park have denied responsibility, and they argue that the scale of the disaster was unforeseeable and therefore they should not be held accountable for their tragic outcome. In addition to these allegation charges, Lee Im-jae and Park Ki-young are facing allegations of falsifying official documents in an effort to conceal the inadequacies of their response to the scene. A total of 23 individuals, including 2 corporate entities, have been indicted in connection with the disaster. And following today's sentencing, 4 other first trial cases remain, including that of former Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency Chief Kim Kwang-ho, who also faces professional negligence charges.
Again, it's almost, we're now about a month away until the 2-year anniversary of the tragedy. And one of the things that, I think that was kind of the start of the whole special counsel probe bills, right? If you remember, the main opposition party was seeking that in order to find an answer for the victims' families. However, still though, maybe this is somewhat of a closure, not a full closure. We do have some people now going to be behind bars with this court case. But is this enough? And the most important thing now moving forward is that we learn from these tragedies and we make sure that proper measures are put in place, that these tragedies are not put in place. That doesn't happen ever again. This year's Armed Forces Day, October 1st, that's tomorrow, was designated as a temporary public holiday just last month. In line with the purpose of recognizing the day, various events are planned. The Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency has announced traffic control measures. Sam, let's get more on this.
Yes, as you mentioned, this year's Armed Forces Day has been designated a temporary public holiday. And the government explains that the purpose is to remind citizens of the importance of national defense and to instill a sense of pride and duty within the military. To mark the 76th Armed Forces Day, the Ministry of National Defense will hold a special event on Tuesday, and military personnel and armored vehicles will parade through various parts of Seoul. And to ensure the smooth running of the event, the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency will enforce traffic control measures across central and southeastern Seoul. And the police have also asked the public to refrain from driving and to use public transportation instead. Since Thursday, October 3rd, is National Foundation Day, a public holiday, many may take Wednesday off to enjoy a 3-day break. And this means that there could be heavier than usual traffic. So please pay close attention to the details of the restrictions that I'm going to introduce here. Starting at 1 1:40 p.m. and lasting until 3:20 p.m. All lanes from Seoul Airport through Hanmyeongro, Yangjae-daero, Dongjakdaero, Hyunchungro, and Hangang-daero will be closed as the military convoy, including K2 tanks and armored vehicles, moves through these routes. And during this period, general traffic and buses will be blocked from entering these areas. So buses operating along these routes will turn around at the nearest subway station. And all lanes of Gwacheondaero and Dongjakdaero will also be restricted, and traffic in both directions from Isu intersection to the National Cemetery on Hyunchungro will be limited, and access to Dongjakdaero Bridge will also be closed. However, pedestrians will be directed to use underground passages or pedestrian bridges to ensure safety and minimize inconvenience. Additionally, both directions of Sejongdaero from Sungnaemun to Gwanghwamun will be closed from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the street parade. Police will direct vehicles passing through central Seoul to take detours via Namdaemunro and Tongilro, while traffic on Seosumunro will resume after 4:30 p.m. once the parade is over. And around 1,400 traffic and military police officers will be deployed to manage traffic flow, and traffic signs will be set up across all restricted areas. So some may find it very confusing. So for more details, you can also check the Seoul Police Traffic Information KakaoTalk channel.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map right now.
You have to be aware.
No,
Yeah.
I just because I have to come to work tomorrow.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And I just realized that one of the roads that you mentioned, I'm affected by.
will be closed.
So I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to be
How
getting
about taking a subway tomorrow?
subway tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think subway would be faster.
No, I'm gonna find the other route.
Yeah.
Let's try to figure out another route to get here. Let's switch gears to a major update concerning the crackdown on illegal content, especially involving the messaging app Telegram. In recent years, Telegram has been a center of controversy involving digital crimes. We talked about deepfake technology being misused, amongst other illegal activities on that app. Monday, the Korea Communication Standard Commissioner, the KCSC, announced significant progress in its cooperation with Telegram, including new measures to tackle these issues. Minji, let's get the latest on this.
Sure. So the KCSC announced on Monday that Telegram has agreed to take a stronger stance on illegal content, particularly those involving deepfake technology. Following recent discussions, Telegram pledged to adopt a zero-tolerance policy for illegal content, and it means that when the KCSC requests the removal of harmful material, Telegram will take immediate action. In a recent face-to-face meeting with the KCSC, Telegram expressed a deep understanding of Korea's growing concerns about deepfake-related crimes, and as part of the agreement, Telegram has committed to not only address digital sex crimes, but also broaden its cooperation in other illegal activities like pornography, prostitution, drug-related content, and gambling. The KCSC will retain the authority to determine the illegality of this content, and Telegram has promised to actively cooperate with their requests. To improve practical cooperation, Telegram has also agreed to work closely with both the Korean National Police Agency and the Korea Communications Commission. And one key outcome of these discussions is the establishment of a dedicated hotline with the KCSC. So this new communication channel will allow continuous contact between the two organizations, and this will enhance their ability to tackle illegal contents more efficiently. And in addition, the KCSC has highlighted that during two recent meetings, they requested Telegram to work more closely with relevant authorities in order to ensure a safer environment for Korean users. The results of these initial talks have been received positively, and the Commission expects that illegal content will now be blocked and removed more quickly. In related updates, KCSC Chairman Ryu Hee-rim stressed the importance of these measures, especially given the secretive nature of deepfake crimes. He also emphasized the need for continued international cooperation to ensure that platforms like Telegram comply with Korean laws and fulfill their responsibilities. Now, during the press conference, KCSC officials reported that since establishing the hotline with Telegram on September 3rd, the Commission has requested the removal of 148 pieces of digital sex crime content, all of which Telegram promptly addressed, and in most cases, the content was removed within 36 hours or even faster. Additionally, the KCSC revealed that 93 cases of digital sex crime information having referred to the National Police Agency this year, and they expect that this number is going to rise more aggressively, as more aggressive actions are taken. The cooperation between Telegram and the Korean police is expected to expand, with the platform signaling its willingness to share key information like user IDs and phone numbers to assist investigations.
Man, there's some numbers that came out from the Education Ministry earlier today that's shocking. I see this. I mean, there's different updates with this. A total of 799 students from elementary to high school have fallen victim to deepfake videos this year, along with 31 teachers. 31 teachers have also fallen victim to this. This is a survey released by the Ministry of Education earlier today. They're saying a total of 833 people victimized by deepfake videos between January 1st and October 27th. It's not even October yet. They probably meant September 27th. There's some error here. During this period, 279 from high school, 209 from middle schools. I don't understand how they do this to elementary, not to say that, all students.
And what's more scary is many of them, even they have no idea that they have become victims.
Well, that's the thing, right?
That's the thing.
Because again, if they're passing this around during Telegram and things like that, how are you supposed to find out? And that's why they're saying the numbers are probably a lot larger than what it is right now. But again, this is it's sickening. I don't even know how kids are even able to utilize the AI technology to create these deepfake videos and pictures. OpenAI, the developer of ChatGPT, has welcomed South Korea's declaration to become a global AI powerhouse, a move that has drawn significant attention. Seong, tell us more about this.
Yes, this is indeed an unusual response. On this past Thursday, President Yoon announced an all-out national AI effort aiming to elevate South Korea into the top 3 global leaders in artificial intelligence by 2027. In response, OpenAI's global policy vice president Chris Lehane took to social media on Sunday, praising the South Korean government's strategic direction. He described it as the right choice for building the infrastructure necessary to drive the AI revolution. Lehane emphasized that achieving AI leadership requires substantial investment in physical infrastructure, including data centers, power plants, and the networks that connect them. He noted that South Korea's policy demonstrates a clear understanding of these needs, once again emphasizing the importance of investing in infrastructure. Now, again, it is rare for OpenAI to publicly endorse a government's policy in this way, and some analysts suggest that this could indicate OpenAI's growing interest in South Korea's AI discussions and the possibility of the company participating and offering support as needed. Lehane also expressed his anticipation for visiting South Korea in the near future, sparking further expectations towards maybe collaboration between South Korea's AI sector and OpenAI.
So move on, turn our focus to South Korea's economy. Industrial production has bounced back after 4 months of decline, thanks to a boost in key sectors like automotive and semiconductors. At the same time, retail sales, which have been showing volatility, has surged to its highest rate in 18 months. However, some indicators suggest challenges remain for the broader economy. Minji, let's get the latest figures on this.
Sure. So the industrial production in South Korea showed a significant rebound in August, marking the first increase in 4 months. Statistics Korea reports that the overall industrial production index, which excludes agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, increased by 1.2% compared to the previous month. This follows a period of decline between May and July, and much of the recovery was driven by a strong 4.1% increase in the manufacturing sector, particularly in automobiles and semiconductors. In fact, automotive production jumped by 22.7%, while semiconductor production saw a 6% rise, both contributing significantly to the overall growth. Meanwhile, the service industry also saw continued growth, both with production rising by 0.2%, marking 3 consecutive months of increase. This was particularly evident in areas closely linked to domestic demand like accommodation and food services, as well as wholesale and retail trade. An influx of foreign tourists and lower than usual rainfall were factors that actually helped boost these sectors. However, while production and services have shown positive momentum, there are still some warning signs. The coincident index, which is a key indicator of current economic conditions, has now declined for 6 straight months. Now, this pattern hasn't been seen since late 2018, raising concern about the underlying health of the economy. On the consumer side, retail sales rose by 1.7% in August, marking their highest increase since February of last year. And despite fluctuations in sale over recent months, this latest surge was driven by stronger demand for non-durable goods like food and beverages, as well as durable goods like cars. However, compared to the same time last year, retail sales were down by 1.3%, continuing a 6-month streak of year-on-year declines. And in addition, facility investment dropped by 5.4%, largely due to a base effect following a surge in transportation equipment investment last month, and construction output was also down slightly by 1.2%. Now, looking ahead, the cyclical component of the leading index, which predicts future economic trends, has also dipped slightly, though officials expect that it may start to recover. For now, however, economic indicators remain mixed as South Korea continues to navigate a challenging global economic environment.
Again, I mean, it might have increase in retail sales because August being sort of a popular month for summer vacations, right? I mean, food and beverage. I mean, it seems like the kind of things that you normally buy. And usually it's around August after the monsoon season. We kind of had a unusual monsoon season this year. It's after the monsoon season that people buy new cars and things like that and try to avoid the rainwater and so forth. But again, the numbers don't look good. And we talked about these underlying numbers where despite the fact that it's an increase in month-on-month figures, you look at it closely, it's not that great is what we're looking at here. This year, national tax revenue up to August has decreased by more than 9 trillion won compared to last year. We talked about a shortfall in the tax revenue too for some quite time now. They're saying this is largely due to the sharp drop in corporate tax revenue and a significant decline in interim tax payments last month. Seoul, more figures. Let's get them.
Yes, according to the Ministry of Economy and Finance's report on the national tax revenue as of August, tax revenue for last month amounted to 23.4 trillion won, a decrease of 600 billion won compared to August of last year. The primary reason for the drop in tax revenue is the decline in corporate tax, mainly due to reduced interim payments. Although business performance in the first half of this year showed positive trends, corporate profits from the previous fiscal year were lower, leading to a 13 trillion won decrease in corporate tax interim payments compared to the previous year. However, some raised their voices criticizing tax-related regulations that benefit the wealthy and large corporations. They are the reasons behind this decrease. And income tax revenue also fell by 1 trillion won compared to last year, while employment growth and rising wages increased the income tax from labor. Declines in capital gains and comprehensive income tax collections resulted in an overall slight drop. On the other hand, a value-added tax or VAT rose by 900 billion won compared to the same month last year, and inheritance and gift tax revenue increased by 500 billion won following the completion of Nexon family's inheritance tax payments. And from January to August, national tax revenue totaled 232.2 trillion won, down by 9.4 trillion won compared to the same period last year. By August, the progress rate of tax revenue collection compared to the budget stood at 63.2%, lower than last year's 70.2%. And looking ahead, the outlook remains dim. On this past Thursday, the government forecasted that, like last year, there will be a shortfall in tax revenue this year as well. And according to the government's revised forecast, this year's tax revenue is expected to fall 29.6 trillion won short of the 367.3 trillion won initially projected, totaling 337.7 trillion won.
Again, I mean, we talked about how none of us like to pay taxes, but, the government needs to start taxes to get things done, right? And this shortfall in tax revenue has been going on for some quite time now. And the longer this prolongs, it's going to be a big problem moving forward here. We're going to also now turn to our focus in a major shift in South Korea's labor market. For the first time in over 60 years, the proportion of self-employed workers have dropped below 20%, signaling a significant transformation. Now, while this marks a major milestone in the country's labor market restructuring, South Korea still ranks high among OECD nations when it comes to the share of non-wage workers. Minji, let's get more figures.
Well, according to data released by Statistics Korea, the proportion of self-employed workers has fallen to 19.7% this year, which is a notable decline from previous decades. And this drop is the first time the figures has fallen below 20% since the government began tracking the data in 1963. The number of self-employed individuals currently stands at 5.636 million out of a total workforce of 28.544 million. Despite there being 4 months left in this year, the analysts expect this trend to continue, meaning the annual proportion is likely to stay below 20%. The decline in self-employment reflects a broader shift in the country's labor market, where wage workers now account for 77.2% of the total workforce, compared to just 31.5% in 1963. Non-wage workers, including unpaid family workers, make up 22.8%, down sharply from over 68% in the 1960s. Now, despite this drop, South Korea still has one of the highest proportions of non-wage workers among OECD member countries. And last year, the country ranked 5th among 30 OECD nations for which data is available, with only Colombia, Mexico, Chile, and Costa Rica having higher rates of non-wage employment. By comparison, countries like Canada and Japan have significantly lower proportions, with Canada's non-wage workers making up just 6.8% of its labor force and Japan at 9.5%. South Korea's share is still more than double that of Japan, and experts suggest that while the proportion of self-employed workers has been decreasing, there is still room for improvement. They emphasize the need to discourage necessity-driven startups that are unprepared for the market while prompting innovation-driven entrepreneurship. They also point out the importance of helping self-employed individuals transition into wage employment when possible in order to create a more stable labor market moving forward.
Well, this shows you two different things here, okay, which signals the current economy, all right? The number one, I believe small business owners are also part of the self-employed, right? When you're running like a small restaurant or something like that, or a convenience store, most convenience stores are self-employed. The small businesses here in South Korea have been struggling very, very much. Over at least the past 2 years, they're saying after
COVID.
They're saying that after COVID, they thought once the easing of the restriction that things were going to be okay. Actually, it just kind of went the other way.
Right.
And small businesses are closing down nonstop. And we talked about one of the reasons for that is because of the high interest rates, and they're just unable to pay for all the loans and mortgages that they took out. And so a lot of small business owners are, number one, struggling, or they're closing down. That's what we're seeing, which is why you're seeing a decline in the self-employed. Number two, because the economy is so shaky right now, no one wants to be a freelancer, right? I mean, there's certain things great about being a freelancer, but there's also the idea that it doesn't lead to stable pay.
Right.
And in a state of kind of poor economy, you want stability in the pay, which is why people want to go into companies and be a full-time worker and things like that. And so that's the other thing, sort of a signal as to the current state of the South Korean economy right now, which again, very, very concerning. Speaking of concerning, let's turn our focus over to the Middle East now. Over the weekend, Israeli forces launching massive airstrikes targeting Hezbollah leadership, including its chief Hassan Nasrallah, using bunker-busting bombs. Tensions in the region escalating Seyoung, let's get more on this.
Very shocking news. Israeli Air Force fighter jets from the 69th Squadron were deployed, dropping around 100 2,000-pound bombs. And this precision strike over the weekend was part of Israel's operation to eliminate Nasrallah. The airstrike, which involved bombs being dropped with pinpoint accuracy at 2-second intervals, was a highly sophisticated and meticulously planned mission. And Israel stated that this long-prepared operation required world-class capabilities in security and precision, declaring it a complete success. And Nasrallah, the elusive leader of Hezbollah, a pro-Iranian militant group based in Lebanon, had long avoided exposure. He didn't even attend some of the important figures' funerals, making it difficult to track his whereabouts. Now, his reported assassination has heightened fears of a potential fifth Middle Eastern war, with tension reaching new heights. We talked about this last week. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, a moderate, has repeatedly emphasized on international platforms like the UN General Assembly that Iran seeks peace, not war. But with the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran in late July, followed by Nasrallah's death, Iran now finds itself in a precarious position. And while Iran has not yet launched a military response, it is expected to face significant pressure. Meanwhile, Israel issued a statement on Sunday confirming that alongside Nasrallah, at least 20 Hezbollah commanders were also killed in the strike, including Nasrallah's chief security officer.
There's a reason why proxy forces are involved in this conflict right now, right? I mean, so far we talked about Hamas, right? One of the titling of a lot of the Korean articles, like they call it E8, 전쟁 or something like that, which is Israel and Palestine. But Palestine is not, it's not the Palestinians who are at war. It's
Hamas and Israel.
It's Hamas, right? And so also you have now Houthis getting involved with this. I believe the Houthis were trying to target the Ben Gurion International Airport after finding out that Benjamin Netanyahu was returning from the United States. Now, they intercepted the missile, but now Israel is attacking Houthi facilities and Houthi rebels. You have the Hezbollah. None of them are like countries, right? We can't say Israel's at war with Yemen or they're at war with Iran right now. And it's a very sensitive thing.
Like a part of political parties, so we can call them.
Not even political parties, right? I mean, it's just they're militant groups. Maybe they're backed by Iran, but it's not Iran directly kind of getting. Which is why, like Russia initially, when they first invaded Ukraine, they were using a lot of these privately contracted military forces. Now it's kind of the other way around. But this. Iran can't get involved with it. Iran knows that they can't get involved with this right now. We'll see what happens moving forward here. Nevertheless, guys, thank you very much for your reports. Have a safe one, and we'll see you guys again.
Thank you.
You can listen to Korea Now with me, SJ Lee, by downloading the Arirang radio application or tune in online by visiting www.arirangradio.com. So make sure you tune in Mondays through Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Korea time.